3 Lives 3 Worlds, 10 Miles of Peach Blossoms. By Tanki Gongzi. Translated by Hamster428. Prologue. I've been sleeping a little too much recently. Naina says, it is probably your pregnancy that is making you sleepy. Lady needs not worry. Naina is my maid, and the only one who smiles at me here at Saho Palace, the only immortal to call me Lady. All the other fairies look down on me. Only because Yehoah didn't give me any title. And Yehoah didn't give me a title because I'm a mortal, not a fairy. It seems Naina has opened the window because there is a slight breeze coming through, and there is a faint sound of someone's steps from outside. Naina's voice is tinged with happiness. Lady, the Crown Prince is here to visit you. I sit up and still my silk nightgown and rest against the bed frame. My mind is not fully conscious. Although I have awakened, I am still awfully exhausted. The bed cushion weighs down a little, and I guess Yehoah has sat down next to me. I hazily asked him, "Are the stars beautiful tonight?" He remains quiet for a while, then replies, "Susu, it is now daytime." I want to wipe my eyes by habit, but when my hand touches the white fabric around my eyes, I suddenly remember. My eyes are no longer there. In the future I won't know what to do. Night and day will be undistinguishable and I won't be able to see anything anymore. Yehoah goes into deep thoughts momentarily and finally says, "I'll marry you. I will be your sight. Susu, I will be your sight." I push him away by reflex. The nightmare from that night immediately drowns over me, frightening me into shivers. Yehoah grips my hand tightly and quickly asks, "Susu, what's wrong?" I lie through my trembles, "I'm only a little tired." "You can attend to your business now. I want to sleep a bit more. I never wanted to part with this person and his affections before. But I can't stand any of it now. I'm only curious. If he had loved the other woman, why ever did he agree to my ridiculous request back then? The past, if I had known I wouldn't have done so." Yehoah left. Naina softly closes the door. I fall back onto the bed while fuzzy images flit through my head. At times it's scenes from Mount Junji at Donghuang, at times it's Yehoah's face, then it became the bloody weapon that unfairly took away my eyes. It hurts, it hurts, it hurts so much I want to cry. But no tears would come. I think to myself I will return to Mount Junji after giving birth to this child. Where things begin is where they should end. While being in thoughts, Naina comes through the door and softly asks me, "Lady, are you awake yet?" I try and faintly reply her, "What is it?" Naina slows her steps. "Lady Sujin sent her maid to ask if you'd like to come over and have tea." I wearily pull the blanket up to my face, say I'm still sleeping. I don't understand at all why Sujin has been unfailingly nice to me recently. Is it because she feels guilty for taking my eyes away and turning me into a blind person? Or does she too understand she was the one to make Yehoah unfairly take my eyes? I'm no longer the silly girl of 3 years ago. The little girl who was always worried and wanted to please everyone. In the afternoon, Naina wakes me up and tells me that the sunlight has shone inside the court and would like to take me out for a sunbath. She prepares the reclining chair and wants to help me over. I turn down her care and slowly find my own way out by following along the wall. I should be able to do at least this much. Otherwise, how will I survive on my own when I return to Mount Junji? I become sleepy again while in the sunlight. My mind becomes hazy as if I'm still floating in a dream. I suddenly remember the day I met Yehua 3 years ago. His hand held a cold sword. His blood-covered body fell in front of my door. I clumsily brought him inside, took out medicines, and speechlessly watched as his injury closed on its own. So then I didn't save him. So then he needn't repay me. And he needn't because of my one sentence, "Why don't you repay me with yourself? Marry me and give me this child in my womb." From the earliest of my memories, I had always been alone on Mount Junji. Surrounded me were only birds, fish, insects, and things. I thus had no name. He then called me Susu and told me it's to be my name from then on. I was filled with happiness for days. Afterward, he took me to Jukongtian, heaven. That was when I found out my husband is the grandson of Tianjun, Heavenly Lord. At that time, he was also crowned Crown Prince. No one acknowledged he is my husband here on Jukongtian. He's never once told Tianjun he married a mortal from Donghuang either. One night, I brought food to Yehua's residence. There was no guards around the manor. Only the melancholic voice of Lady Sujin rang out. "You married a mortal merely because you wanted to punish my unfaithfulness for marrying Tianjun. You didn't have a solution and neither did I. It was impossible to refuse Tianjun's favor, being a woman in this world. Yehua, tell me, you still love me, am I not right? You call her Susu all because there is a Su in my name, right?" The dream replays each scene to match exactly with reality and it makes me sweat cold sweats. I carefully caress my protruding stomach. It's been 3 years and I'm guessing it's about time for labor. The next night Naina doesn't come by to help me go to bed. I still cannot fetch washing water by myself, so I have to rush her. Naina fixes the beddings and says, "You should wait a bit more, perhaps His Highness will come by today." My smile freezes on my face. After that incident, Yehua hasn't come here to rest. Of course I know he won't come by in the future either. If at that time on Mount Junji at Donghuang he had told me there is already someone else in his heart, I wouldn't have let him marry me. At that time I hadn't loved him either, I was only a clouded person. But he didn't say anything. He married me and even took me to this place called Jukongtian. I'm kind by nature, so I could ignore whatever complications there are between the two of them. I thought no matter what, the person he married was me. We bowed to heaven and earth in Donghuang and I was also carrying his child. One of these days he was sure to be touched by my love for him. He also treated me with more kindness as each day went by. So I allowed myself the small misbelief that even though he doesn't love me, perhaps there was at least some tiny affection. Love sometimes makes people small and petty. But then it happened. And when I woke up from my dream, I've lost my sight, I've lost light. That day, Lady Sujin invited me to Yao Chi, Jade Pond, to look at flowers. I thought it was a small party with other fairies as well, so I stupidly agreed. When I arrived at Yao Chi, I realized there was only the two of us. After waving the maids away, she pulls my hand along to Zuxian Tai, Execute Fairy Terrace. Standing on Zuxian Tai, she coldly smiled at me. "Have you heard? Tianjun will make Yehua the crown prince." and he will bestow me to Yahuwah as his wife. Even until then I couldn't understand the relationships between these fairies. I only felt my blood was boiling, not knowing if it was from anger or from sorrow. She went on carelessly, Yahuwah and I were soulmates from the beginning. Zhukongtian isn't a place for mortals. After giving birth, you only have to jump from here to go back to where you came from. I wasn't sure if jumping from Zuxiantai will bring me back to Mount Junji or not. I hadn't thought of leaving. I just hastily asked her, Yahuwah wants me to leave? But I'm his wife, shouldn't I stay with him? Now that I think about it, such words only brought me more shame. But at that point, I still thought Yahuwah had liked me a little. As long as he liked me just a little, I would stay with him forever. Sujin smiled and sighed. She pulled my hand and led me up to Zuxiantai. I thought she wanted to push me down, but the person who fell from Zuxiantai was she. I hadn't had time to react when I saw a dark shadow flying past me to follow her. Yahuwah held Sujin and stood in front of me. His cold eyes were burning with anger. Sujin weakly said to him through her delicate breaths, "Don't blame Susu. I don't think she pushed me on purpose. She was probably affected after hearing that Tianjun wanted to give me to you." Unbelievable. Clearly I didn't do anything. It wasn't me. It wasn't me. I didn't push her. Yahuwah, you have to believe me. You have to believe me. I quickly explained to him. In the moment of bewilderment, I hadn't known I only looked like a fool. He waved his hand and calmly warned, "That's enough. I only believe what I saw." He didn't want to listen to my explanations. He didn't believe me. He held Sujin with worried eyes and hastily left Zuxiantai. That night he stood in front of me. His expression was grave as he said, "Sujin's eyes are damaged by the Tira energy at the bottom of Zuxiantai. Susu, you'll have to repay according to the wheel of retribution. But don't be afraid, Susu. I'll marry you. From now on I will be your sight." He's never mentioned marriage to me before on Zhukongtian. My heart suddenly was filled with chill. Anger and fright together started to rise. I held his hand and shook it furiously. "Why do you want to take my eyes?" She jumped down by herself. She jumped down by herself. I had nothing to do with it. Why won't you believe me? His gaze seemed painful, but he only smiled coldly. The Tira energy is thick at the bottom of Zuxiantai. Why would she jump down there herself? Did she not want to live anymore? Susu, you're being more and more unreasonable. I only had him on Zhukongtian. I had always thought once I give birth to the child, we would hold hands and look at 10 miles of cloud, 10,000 miles of twinkling stars. He didn't know what bright light means to me. I unfairly lost my 2 eyes. Naina cared for me for 3 days straight. 3 days later, Sujin came to see me and said, "Your eyes, I'm using them well. I finally understand what it means to love. What it means to hate." It was all a lover's quarrel between the two of them. I was merely an oblivious bystander, and yet how did I come to be a victim target? These past 2 days I finally can distinguish day from night. I have learned how to tell each hour by ear. Afternoon, Naina runs into the courtyard and breathes heavily as she says, "Lady, the Heavenly Lord has just passed down a decree to give Lady Sujin to His Highness the Crown Prince. I slightly smiled. It's been a while since Yehua became Crown Prince. This is only a matter of time. But it's not like Sujin will be able to be his main wife. I recently heard that Tianjun has promised to Beizi Daijun of King Kaihu Kingdom that whoever becomes the next Tianjun will have to marry Baitian, the Daijun's daughter. My stomach suddenly becomes extremely painful. Naina calls out, Lady, what's wrong? I lift my head up and say, I think I'm going into labor. I come in and out of consciousness due to the pain in labor. When Sujin had her eyes replaced, Yehua was by her side for 1 day and 1 night. But right now there is only Naina by my side. I try my best to not call out his name. I've gone through enough hurt and pain, so there is no need to walk down that path again. Naina cries as she speaks, Lady, let go of my hand so I can go find His Highness. I'm in so much pain I can't say anything. I can only mouth the words, Naina, help me a little more, just a little more. Naina cries even louder. I don't know when Yehua arrived. When I come to, he is holding my hands, the cold hands. He brings the baby over and says, touch the baby, he looks a lot like you. I remain still. I like this child. But I can't possibly bring him to live with me on Mount Junji by myself. It's best to leave him behind. If that's the case, it's best not to touch him, not to hold him, not to develop deeper affections. Yehua still sits by my side for a long time without saying anything. After Yehua leaves, I call Naina over and tell her I'm naming the child Ali, and for her to watch over him in the future. Yehua comes to visit me each day. He was never a talker to begin with. I used to be talkative but recently no longer feel like it, so for the most part we only silently sit next to each other. He doesn't tell me about his marriage to Sujin. Naina doesn't mention it either. 3 months later my body recovers greatly. He brings over many different fabrics and told me to pick the ones I like for a wedding dress. He says, Susu, I told you I'll marry you. Of course I know he thinks I'm pitiful. He sees in me a mortal who has lost her eyes. Even though I supposedly brought it upon myself, I had made him angry as well as rueful. I think to myself it's best to leave. There is no longer a reason to keep me here on Zhukongtian. Every time I go for a walk with Naina, I try my best to memorize the path from Saho Palace to Zuxiantai. Naina is extremely surprised, but I tell her I like the fragrance of the flowers lining the path. Half a month later I can use my sense to accurately navigate from Saho Palace to Zuxiantai. Deceiving Naina is a very easy thing to do. Standing on Zuxiantai, my heart feels as light as air. With Ali in Naina's care, I am further at peace. But suddenly I want to clearly tell Yehua once that I didn't push Sujin whether he believes me or not. When we were still on Mount Junji, Yehua once gave me a very beautiful bronze mirror. He had to attend an important business at the time and I was left at home alone. He took out a treasure from his sleeve and told me no matter where he was, I only had to call out for him from the mirror and he'd be able to hear me. He would talk to me a while if he was free. I don't know why I brought it with me to Zhukongtian either. It's probably because it's the only gift Yehua has ever given me. I take the mirror out. It's been a long time since I called his name, so it feels awkward coming from my lips now. I softly says Yehua. A while later his voice came ringing by my ears, Susu. I forget that he's not standing next to me, so I slowly step forward. With much difficulty I open my mouth. I have to return to Mount Junji. Don't come find me anymore. I'll be fine by myself. Help me take good care of Ali. I've always dreamt you and I can hold the child's hands and show him the sun and moon, stars, and clouds. We would tell him our story on Mount Junji in the past. Unfortunately that is no longer possible. I think for a bit and continue, don't tell him his mother is immortal. Heavenly fairies won't want to have anything to do with mortals. They're clearly words of ordinary goodbyes, but why do I suddenly want to cry? I quickly look up to the sky, but then I remember I've lost my eyes. There's no more tears to shed. Yehua's voice becomes urgent, where are you? Zuxian Tai, I reply. Lady Sujin told me I only have to jump from here to return to Mount Junji. I can't see anything around me now. Mount Junji is my home, so its surroundings will be familiar to me. Living by myself there won't be worrisome. He hastily cuts my words short, Susu, stay where you are. I'll come immediately. I really don't have any courage to explain to him one more time that it wasn't I who pushed Sujin. He still won't believe me and I can't bear the disappointment of losing his trust. I say, Yehua, I'm letting go. You should also let go. The two of us won't owe each other anything more from now on. The bronze mirror falls from my hand, making a clashing sound. Yehua's unclear voice shouted angrily, stay exactly where you are. You can't jump. I turn and jump from Zuxian Tai. Yehua, there's nothing more I ask of you. It's all ended. Up to that point I still don't know that I'm not actually immortal. The tear energy at the bottom of Zuxian Tai inflicted countless injuries on my body. But because it was also the tear energy of thousands of heavenly soldiers, it was able to break the seal placed on me. I hadn't realized this seal started 200 years ago when Demon King Jing Shang invaded Donghuang. In the end, while trying to imprison him once more, he was able to put a seal on me during our battle. It sealed away my memory and heavenly powers and made me into a mortal. As the past trickles back, I silently ask myself, Bai Tian, you were born a fairy, so you don't have to practice the arts to become an immortal. But there's nothing so easy on heaven and earth. If you didn't go through a painful experience, how can you reach the higher realm? So these years of love and hate were all a part of that painful experience. I faint at Shi Li Tao Hua, 10 miles of peach blossoms, of Master Jian to the east of the East Sea. After saving me, he sighs and says, your parents and brothers have been searching for you endlessly. I myself didn't have one peaceful night of sleep for the past 200 years. But your eyes, and these injuries, what had happened to you? What had happened? Just a painful experience. I smile and reply, I still remember you have a medicine that can erase all memories, correct? Jian furrows his brows. It seems you really did go through many painful times during these past decades. In front of me was a bowl of steaming medicine. In this world, there has never been a Susu on Mount Junji. It was merely a dream of the fairy Bai Tian, daughter of Beizi Daijun. The endless sorrow slowly turns into smoke among the blossoms' vibrant color. After waking up from a dream, one should forget everything he went through. 300 years later, Donghai Shuahun, Water Lord of the East Sea, has a new son. In preparation for the child's 1-month-old celebration, he goes all the way to Lengxiao Palace and asks for a few days of leave. Tianjun, Heavenly Lord, agrees with one eye opened and one eye closed. Duobao Yuanjun becomes curious as it was only a small party. There was no need for such effort. Thus that day after court is dismissed, he follows Nandu Zhenjun, Lord of the South Star, who has always been close to Donghai Shuahun, wanting to ask for all the details. Zhukongtian, heaven, has always been a boring place. Even Donghai Shuahun's request for a few days of leave has caused curiosity among the immortals. Everyone circles around Nandu Zhenjun in front of the palace the moment Duobao Yuanjun opens the topic. Nandu Zhenjun surprisingly asks, "Did you all not know that the Lady of King Kaiyu will also be present at next month's feast? Past the East Sea is a distant land called King Kaiyu." Zhenjun stops here and turns to face King Kaiyu in the east to bow respectfully, then continues, "The lady's eyes are weak, so she cannot look directly into bright light. But then the palace in Donghai are made with coral walls and gem shingles. The gold and gems are too blinding. That's why Donghai Shuahun has been collecting seaweeds from everywhere to make a curtain preventing the light from spreading." Just as he finishes, the crowd in front of Lengxiao Palace lets out an "Oh." The lady Nandu Zhenjun has just mentioned is the daughter of Bai Zi Daijun. Surnamed Bai, with a single character Tian for her name. She comes from an ancient immortal line, so people call her Gugu, lady, to show respect. From the start of time until now, there has been countless changes of power in heaven and earth as a result of wars between different lineages. Ancient lineages have either disappeared or stay in deep sleep. The only ones left are Tianjun on Zhukongtian, Master Jian at Shili Dao Hua to the east of Donghai, and Bai Zi Daijun from the King Kaiyu Kingdom. To speak of Bai Tian, one cannot neglect to mention a big secret of the Tianjun family. According to folklores, 50,000 years ago Bai Tian and the second prince of Tianjun were betrothed. It was an agreeable marriage between two great families. But for some reason Zhang Ji fell for Bai Tian's maid and insisted on retracting the engagement. Bai Zi Daijun couldn't stand the insult and came to Zhukongtian with Master Jian to ask for an explanation from Tianjun. Tianjun was thus angered and banished the second prince to the north, effectively giving him the title Bahai Shuahun, water god of the North Sea. He then gave a heavenly decree which ties the next heavenly king, no matter who from the heavenly lineage, to marriage with Bai Tian. More than 300 years ago, Tianjun announced to the 4 seas and 8 lands that Yehua will become the next heavenly king. The fairies on Zhukongtian all thought they'd be drinking celebratory wine for Yehua and Bai Tian within a few days. But 300 years passed and there is still no news of their wedding. They only know although Lord Yehua has a son, the position for lady of the house is still vacant. Bai Tian on the other hand still lives in King Kaiyu and no one has been able to invite her away from her home. He's unmarried, and so is she. But the families are seemingly not in a hurry. It is something strange indeed. The immortals wonder a while and then envy Donghai Shuahun to be so fortunate for being able to invite the lady who has never stepped out of King Kaiyu in over many thousand years. Nandu Zhenjun nods his head and says, "It certainly is an honor." But Donghai Shuahun has been in turmoil for the past few days because he has also invited Bahai Shuahun thinking the lady wouldn't accept the invitation. The other day I've also heard that Lord Yehua also brought the little prince to the Eastland and stopped by Donghai for a visit. The three of them are sure to meet each other at the party. Donghai Shuahun is now afraid he might have caused a catastrophe when that day comes. Most of the fairies on Zhukongtian are older ones with prior knowledge of this story between the three. But a young fairy who's only came to heaven not too long ago ignorantly asks, "Who is this King Kaiyu lady? Did she, Lord Yehua, and Bahai Shuahun have a deathly feud?" The fairies explain until their saliva all dry up. The silly young fairy still doesn't understand the importance in the story and instead asks, "Bahai Shuahun would rather anger Bai Zi Daijun to marry the lady's maid. Then I wonder how pretty that maid was." Duo Bao Yuanjun covers his mouth and coughs. "I've actually met her. When the second prince brought her before Tianjun, wanting to give her a title, I could see that she was definitely a rare beauty. But she's still far below Bai Zi Daijun's wife. I haven't met the lady, but rumors have it that she looks very much like her mother, even thrice as beautiful." The oldest deity among them, Nanji Xianjun, Lord of the South Pole, strokes his long white beard which touches the ground and says, "I actually have seen the lady once when I was young. I was still an attendant serving Tianjun at the time. When he visited Master Jian to view the peach blossoms, the lady was dancing atop the tree branches. She was too far away so I could only see her rosy dress among the blossoms. The scene was so very magical, so very magical." The fairies sigh and lament how unpredictable fate is for such a stunning beauty to be rejected in marriage. After more banters, they finally part. End of prologue.